As prepared as I am for the coming food crisis, I'm not prepared enough. I'm just not ready for things to get as tight as I think they're going to get. And with what's happening overseas right now, things are going to get much more difficult in the sense of feeding yourself. So let's talk about what's happening, why it's going to affect us, and what to plan for right now. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper. Today we're talking about how it's going to be very hard to feed yourself here very soon. We already knew that the effects of 2020 and 2021 were going to make things more difficult in the sense of financially being able to afford to eat. But things have gotten even worse in that regard. And I think we're all going to start feeling the strain here very soon. And there's a lot of evidence as to why. And there's some things we can learn about the crisis happening overseas right now that could show us how things could be in an emergency situation as well. And these are things we need to be paying attention to and learning from during these times of trouble. And if you're learning about what's going on right now and you're using it to better your preparedness, then hit the subscribe button below, because that's what we're all about here in this community. We're trying to get better prepared, use our observation to see what we can and learn from it the best we can, and then apply it to our preparedness. Now, understand that the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine right now is showing us that food is gone. This whole situation has been going on for a little more than 3 weeks now, and it is decimated all of their food supply, okay? There is no food on the shelves, grocery stores are empty, and over 3 million people are leaving the country with refugee status because not only is it a dangerous scenario, but there's also no supplies left. So people don't have anywhere else to turn, they have to go somewhere. These are things we should be paying attention to right now, because any other war-torn country would look the same way if something was to happen somewhere else. Now, keep this in mind. With bridges and trains being destroyed, mostly from the side of Ukraine in order to stop Russian aggression in those areas, either way, those logistic systems, those transit systems, that infrastructure suddenly disappearing made it impossible for food deliveries to occur. And when there are food deliveries, they have to take back routes, which take much longer and create a much more dangerous situation. So at the end of the day, anytime this kind of stuff is happening somewhere in the world, it's going to disrupt supplies. And this is definitely something you should be paying attention to right this second. Now, it's not just what's happening over there in the sense of what's going on in their grocery stores and stuff like that, okay? Understand that this crisis is going to affect 30% of the world's wheat production, because 30% of the world's wheat exports come out of Ukraine and Russia. So both of those countries aren't going to be exporting wheat anytime soon. That's a huge amount of wheat, which is basically every basic food thing that you eat right now, in the sense of bread, cereal, beer, anything you can think of probably has wheat in it somewhere, okay? Now, keep this stuff in mind, because that's going to impact prices, but it's also going to impact global food supply. So prices going up is a problem, but global food supply is also an issue, especially with the amount of population explosion we've seen in the last few decades. Now, the World Food Program, which is a branch of the UN, yes, but their whole mission is to try to stave off world hunger. They're trying to save people who would otherwise starve. They are reporting a $71 million per month increase in their costs of operation just because of what's happening right now, because most of their wheat was actually coming from Ukraine. So they are basically inheriting a huge amount of additional costs just to keep things running at the same rate that they already were. All of their wheat products were coming out of Ukraine. No longer is that a resource for them, and now they have to figure out other places to source it very quickly, or else they're going to miss a step in their operations, which means people around the world who are starving that are receiving this aid are probably going to starve. Now, understand that there's 44 million people in the world right now in 38 different countries that are on the edge of famine. So that's a lot of people that already don't eat in a lot of countries. This whole crisis is going to make that whole thing worse. And it's not just the fact that the food comes from places like Ukraine and Russia, it's also because the shipping costs are going through the roof. This is all going to be applicable to you and me as well. Keep these things in mind. I'm telling you a global perspective right now, but you have to apply it to your personal preparedness situation, because it will affect you in the very same way, one way or another. Now, shipping costs are through the roof due to many factors. Obviously, energy is an issue and fuel is through the roof, and anything that requires energy right now is going to cost more. But Also, because of what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, there's a lot of war risk insurance premiums that are going up, and some of them per voyage are up to $300,000 just for that premium in order to protect that cargo from going through a risky area during a hot conflict. All of this gets pushed onto you, the consumer. All of this gets pushed on to whoever pays the bill at the end of the day. And this isn't going to stop just getting bigger before this whole thing is over, if this whole thing is over, or when this whole thing is over. Keep in mind that these things don't easily just go back down to normal prices after the fact either, okay? Now, John Catsimatis, I believe is his name. He's a CEO of Grestedes, which is a supermarket chain from New York City, I believe. And he recently had an interview where he said to buy food now because inflation is only going to get worse. And now most CEOs would let you buy food whenever you would like, because either way they want you to spend as much money as you can with their grocery chain and make as much money as possible, which is their duty to their shareholders. But in this situation, things are becoming so dire that we have people who would actually benefit from you waiting to buy food to tell you to buy it now instead and get what you can, because in his estimation, food will be 20% more expensive by summer. Now, I'll put some of the information within this video in the links in the description as well as in the pinned comment, just so you can reference some of it, because I find it important to our preparedness considerations right now. Keep in mind that come summer, the same food you buy at the grocery store right now will be anywhere from 12 to 20% more expensive. That's a likely estimate. Now, it's possible it won't be that high. I hope it's not that high, because I'm already having a hard time paying the bill at the grocery store because it's ridiculously expensive right now. 20% more is going to wreck people. And when I say that, I mean it's going to literally push them into either homelessness or into starvation or some form of poverty that they can't get out of on their own very easily. And that is really going to cause us problems here in the United States. It's not just about not being able to eat food. It's not about starving per se. It's about the level of desperation that this creates. And we've already seen how desperate people are within the country right now and how much further that desperation is going to go. Right now, with the rise in fuel prices, people are already deciding to leave their job instead of driving to work and spending more money than they actually earn just to get there. So in that same situation, if you can't afford to eat by working your job, are you going to keep working that job? Those risk versus reward balancing acts are all going to eventually come to pay the piper. And we are going to see that unfold here probably in the next few months. Even if this whole hot conflict scenario doesn't unfold into some global tragedy that we all want to avoid, we are going to see this happen to our food prices no matter what at this point in time, because all of those different levels of price increases are always kicked down the road a little bit further than the immediacy. And we have to keep that in mind. These things don't happen overnight. We have to study what's happening right this second, observe what's going on, and then apply it to the idea that we're going to see the side effects of it later. And that's exactly what's going on here. The desperation we'll see here in our own country from people who no longer can afford food or energy, utilities, or dinner, things that definitely matter. And we know that there's nothing more unpredictable than a parent that can't feed their child. These are things we have to really prepare for now and keep in mind. Look, food is going to be very expensive, and I'm not prepared to keep buying it at the prices that it already is right now. And I am prepared in the sense of having a lot of long-term food storage put away. But that's not the food I'm trying to rely on a daily quality of life average basis. This isn't something that I want to have to dig into during a non-emergency situation. But this food price increase and the way things are going right now economically, this might become a emergency situation in some ways, just financially, for a lot of us here in this community. And it's something we should definitely consider. I'm also not prepared for the fact that it's going to affect some people that you might know in your life, that you might care about, in a very negative way. And it might get to the point where people need help and assistance. And as preppers, we should try to help people when we can. Helping our community makes us stronger, because the stronger our community is, the better off we are during a disaster scenario. But things can get a little blurry when people get desperate enough. So you have to be very wise in your decisions when it comes to being charitable. Just keep those things in mind, but take care of the people in your immediate circle and expect some of those people to need that assistance here within the next few months And I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that none of them do, but this is just the way things look like they're going. And when you have people coming out and telling you what's happening, you have to at least take that information in for what it is, and then do what you will with it in the sense of applied preparedness. So, wanted to bring this to your attention. It's something we have to talk about. It's not a good situation, but it is real life, and that's gonna be it for Magic Prepper.